Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, looking at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hello and welcome back. I'm your hostess, Cindy Murray, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Amber Garvin and Kristen Hessler.
Hey, how's it going?
If this is your first time joining us, we're so glad to have you here. And if you're returning, then welcome back. And I hope you're sharing us with all your friends so they can come join us too. This week, we are actually celebrating today our 50th episode. Yay!
Woo, 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 woo.
So we are so excited that we've got 50 episodes in the book. This does include our bonus episodes where we're covering Eckhart Tolle. And we do have a new episode of that one coming up very shortly where we'll finish off that book. And so I hope you'll stay tuned with that if you've been following along. But 50 episodes, I cannot believe it. It has been 50 episodes. That is just crazy to me because when we started out on this, it was kind of like just a pipe dream. Hey, let's do a podcast. Let's do a blog together. And, you know, it was kind of one of those things where Kristen and Amber had been thinking it together for a while.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned this before that they had been talking about it. And in my head, I have had other blogs, but I was kind of thinking about having a different blog with different type of content than my crafting blog that I usually do. And Kristen and I were talking one day and I was just like, well, what do you think about all three of us doing one together? And we just kind of talked about it, and then it was, you know, Modern Musings was born. And I didn't even realize at the time how much this would mean to me. I mean, I knew it was something that I have always wanted to do, but at the same time, as we started recording episodes and we found our groove and we started talking about the things that matter to us and really digging deep into the motivational and the Goals Girls episodes that we talk about, that really, really hit home with me that was something I had been wanting to do for a long time. So yeah, I did not realize how important this being able to contribute to society at large was to me. And I say that in a funny way because I've always wanted to be a writer, so that is contributing. When I was younger, I wanted to be I was a musician and a singer and a songwriter, and I wanted to have impact, you know, in some sort. But I really didn't realize the scope of my need to share that knowledge that I have with other people, and particularly in the way that we have done it, because I think we kind of set out thinking that this would be a podcast about lighthearted topics. You know, some of the stuff that we've done is Christmas cards and, you know, Oracle cards and who's your celebrity hall pass and things like that, you know, but we've really dug down deep within ourselves and come up with some really, I think, profound topics, some really personal topics that we've kind of divulged some of our personal lives and shared some of our challenges with people. And that seems to be what resonates with our listeners and our readers the most. And so the more that people tell us that that's what they're enjoying about it, the more we're inclined to go that direction. And so, yeah, that was where, you know, Kristen and I kind of talked about what we wanted to do. And
yeah, I remember that. I just remember sitting in your studio one day, maybe about this time last year, and I think you had just finished looking at your Work Your Light Oracle cards, and I remember talking to you about oh, have you heard of what a light worker is? And we had talked about some other things like kind of healing from within, because that's things that you and I had been working on.
Yeah.
And, also side conversations with Amber. She had been going through a lot of struggles, and she had been kind of talking about some things that she's been dealing with. And it was like, that's what I really like to do, is just kind of share like my experience with other people, because I've made some really stupid decisions in my life, made some really bad mistakes.
We all have.
I really like to tell people like, hey, don't take the path that I took. Like, I took it for you so you wouldn't have to, okay?
Right.
Please don't.
Well, and not even
make
just
the same
that,
mistake as me, but
sometimes here's my success story, and this is why.
Right.
And
right.
I can help you do that
right.
too.
And I was like, I always wondered what that was. Like, who are those type of people? And I found this term like I had never heard of. But I see it now all the time, online and through other people. I hear it called light worker, and I was talking to Mom about it, and she was like, I feel like that's me, like that's what I'm supposed to be. And I felt like I was too. And I'm like, okay, whatever that means, whatever title aside, whatever you want to call it, that's irrelevant. Like, I felt like, okay, so we just identified that we have this desire to share. We should share. We need to share. Now is the time to like figure it out. And she goes, hey, I just had this thought, and you can just tell me no if it's a stupid idea. And Mom was like, what if we did like a thing together? And I was like, oh my gosh, Amber and I have this little sticky note that we have been sharing of like ideas. And one of the things that was to do a podcast,
Yeah.
And it was just like, had I not shared like something from my heart, and had you not, gone out on a limb and like shared something from your heart, then this would not be.
I know.
And same thing. If Amber had never, like 5 years ago, said we should do a podcast together, because she literally did say that like 5 years ago.
And it took us 5 years to get to this point.
Right. But I don't know. I felt called. I felt compelled to do it, and that's why I like I say I lean towards some of these topics, and that's just what I feel called and compelled to do, is to share, and not necessarily just on the tough topics or whatever, but on the fun topics, the light topics, the laughter, those things I feel like need to be shared as well. And so that's why I say I feel this 50 episodes is like so much a miracle to me, because it's been a gift to me, actually. And some days I don't even care if we have any listeners, because I just feel so excited to share.
Right.
And, if there's one person out there that listens to what we have to say and it helps them, then I feel like I did my part. And of course, I hope there's more than just one of you out there. And if you are one of the ones that are out there, please, please, please give us some ratings, spread the word, comment with us or whatever. But I know we say this at the end of every episode, but it really does help us. It helps encourage us to keep going. It helps encourage others, because they see that there's something valued here that you enjoy, and so they're curious and want to listen to it as well. And it just helps get us out there in the world. But yes, and it helps validate us, because the more we see you interacting with us, then the more we are encouraged to keep going. And, because there are some days that we look and we go, is there anybody really listening? I mean, we're not ready to give up by any means, but, I do sometimes wonder that. Are we just talking to thin air? I mean, I know there's people who listen, and they do. We get emails, we get calls, we get comments from people all the time. And, people talk to us about what they liked or whatever. But it's still, I think still some of them are they only listen to the podcast or they only read the blog. And so they're also still not getting the whole picture because, as we've talked about in previous episodes, every podcast has a set of blogs that goes with it. Every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, we post a new blog that is usually on topic with that podcast for that week or one of our previous podcasts. So, we continue things. Things wind up being connected to each other, and sometimes those connectors are actually found in the blogs, not on the podcast. So, I don't know. I feel like that's an important part of it. Mm-hmm. And the only reason there's a blog and a podcast is because we obviously can't just sit and record, umpteen podcasts every day because we all have jobs and families to attend to. And this is not our full-time job. This is our fun thing that we do. So we've got a limited amount of time every week to dedicate to it. And, maybe someday we will have a daily podcast or whatever, but that's way in the future sometimes. So for now, it has to go on the blog because we can manage that in a more timely manner. But going back to how all these things are linked, these stories that we tell you, these topics that we share every week, they are they're connected to the things from before so often. And so we wanted to spend this 50th episode talking about some of our favorite episodes, some of our favorite topics, and just kind of going back and doing maybe some updates or adding some more to the story. So this week, you may have noticed on the blog also, I've shared a new sugar-free recipe, and I talked about also one of the blogs that I wrote earlier, so about complaining. And so I want to just kind of revisit that, or I wanted to kind of revisit that on the blog this week. And then so today on the podcast, we're talking about some of those things amongst us with the podcast. So I'm going to put it out there to you guys. Do you have a favorite podcast that we've done? Which one do you think was the most fun, and which one do you think was the most impactful?
I want to say the most fun one that I really enjoyed recording with you guys was the one about celebrity hall passes.
That one was fun.
Yeah, that one was a lot of fun. It was also really short, but it was a lot of fun.
Yes, actually, I think I looked. That one was 12 minutes. Is that right?
Is that really? That's
yeah,
all
one
it
of
was?
our
really short.
Podcasts.
We were having conversation, and Amber goes, "Well, I guess that's it for today." And then it was like, "Okay, I guess we're done." So that one.
Oops.
Funny thing, guys, we kind of have joked in the past about our secret recording location. We have recorded in a lot of
so
different
many weird places.
We are like Goldilocks and trying to find the perfect place where there's no echo, no cars, no dogs, no people. It's really hard. We don't have a studio that we go to, so we are always on the lookout for a quiet place that doesn't echo, and we can actually all sit and look at each other while we talk, but not have our microphones pick up. So, that particular episode, we thought, oh, let's go to the library. It's really quiet there, and they have these rooms that you can check out. And just happened that the one day we were available, because, we actually all have, like, multiple jobs, lots of things that we do. So, we have to squeeze this in, too. So, we coordinated a specific day at this particular library, was only open for like 4 hours. and we just didn't have a lot of time. It was still really new to us to hook up the equipment, and we had a lot of technical problems. The room was really small.
And it was very
I think
hard.
It was only our second time we were recording also.
Yes, it was.
think
It
so,
absolutely was.
Yeah.
And the other problem with it was that this room was, it was really tiny. We were sitting
we were
at
all
this tiny
squished together.
table, swished together. There wasn't
The
even room for the.
anxiety was so high.
And
And
the-
there was-
and the-
Kristen melted down before we even recorded.
Well, that was like what
we had
every time for a while. Like one
Yeah,
of us had
Kristen
a meltdown.
melts down. Yes.
And we had these mic stands with booms, and they like took up the whole room, and the walls were hard, and it was a glass wall, so we're like in a fishbowl. Everybody that walked by stopped to look and see what we're doing, and and the sound reflected off of everything in that room. When I came back to and I should have thought about these things, but it's been, like 30 years since I worked as an audio engineer. And there's things, it's like riding a bike, but you don't just get on a bike and ride a 50 miler, after you haven't ridden in 30 years. You
Take it
you
around the
have to-
block.
Yeah. and I was very unsteady as an audio engineer when we started back to doing this. And so, I didn't even think about that room being hard and just reflecting the sound and everything. And I mean, we had good mic setup and all that, but it was still really crowded, and we kept bumping the mic stands, and it was just terrible. And
What, I bumped my drink and spilled
Oh,
it
she
everywhere.
spilled her drink.
Oh my gosh,
everywhere.
yes, in the library where we were like, oh my God, we're going to have to pay for the carpet. Yeah.
it was crazy. So,
That
and
was
then,
a fun episode. Yeah.
that was a fun episode just because of the silly stuff.
Yeah,
And we've had some other great little recording places too. And then the last couple of weeks we've been recording here at my house because we were using a secret hotel location that we were going to, and we'd rent the hotel for the night and record in the hotel. And but it kind of gets a little expensive out
I
of
think
pocket.
they caught on to us because it was like super cheap, and then every time we went, it was like $10
It costs a little more, a
$10
little more, a
I was
little
like,
more. Yeah.
Are they
Yeah.
like trying to sneak on us
Yeah.
inflation?
Yeah, well, and inflation has increased too, so that
Yeah.
doesn't help as
Yeah.
well. And so it's like, okay, let's do this somewhere free again. So, so we've been doing it actually here, and I hope that my wiggly, I'm kind of a wiggly person. I'm a ADHD, and I can't help but move all the time, and I think my chair is squeaking, and I apologize for that. And the dog barked earlier, and
Someone was washing dishes
Yeah,
on
yeah.
our last episode. Amber was like, shh, 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 Cindy, stop talking. But she kept going, and it was like, I could hear the sink running and some dishes clanking. And it was like, well, just
Oh,
let her
well.
talk.
It's too late. I was in the zone, so there it's been fun. There's been some silly things we've had. Part of me wishes that we had somebody videoing us the whole time, because sometimes we have some really funny things that don't show up on the
Yeah.
podcast, and we're just like crying because it's so funny, and we're just laughing so hard. And we wish you guys could share on that part too, but unfortunately, sometimes the magic just happens outside of the recording. So, but yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that happens in our recordings. Now, Kristen, did you have a most fun episode?
One of the things that I like is that it's so organic. We never know how the conversation is going to go. And,
And sometimes
I'm
we
not
have
gonna
an
lie,
idea and it goes the other
we
way.
have a list of what, different episodes we have upcoming, so we can be thinking about it if needed, or, if someone needs to plan ahead. So we do have a list of things that we want to talk about for future podcasts. And, so, seeing them on the list, you kind of have an idea like, okay, I'm going to be the host for this one. I know exactly what I want to talk about. And then turn the mic on, the
And
conversation doesn't always go that way.
Yeah.
And then when I go
We
back and
derail each
listen
other.
to it, I just laugh because we take it some other direction, but it still amazes me at the things that we talk about. I'm like, wow, you know, I didn't even expect that to happen.
Right.
But
That's
I
how
like
great conversation goes.
right. And I like the real talk. So my favorite episodes have been you know, I do love the Goals Girl. That's my passion. Any of the Goals Girl segment, I feel like that's my child. I really love those. But the ones that have been the funnest have been just the real talk ones, like the Clutterbug cleaning checklist and the budget, meal planning on a budget or healthy eating on a budget.
Yeah, that's one
And-
of my favorite ones also.
And the one, though, that makes me laugh was the cleaning checklist one. Because when I go back and listen to that one wasn't too long ago, I think in the spring.
Mhm.
And we were talking about, you know, it was like spring cleaning around April, I think, or March. And we started talking about like hoarding, or maybe that was a Clutterbug episode, and maybe it was both of those because we were
I think
talking
we
about
talked about both.
yeah, I think on both of them we started talking about hoarding and like not cleaning. Like my intention was cleaning, like, you know, using Clorox and Lysol and Mr. Clean and Pine Sol and, you know, dusting, like,
Yeah, I
A
do
maid
this and then
does
this and then
cleaning.
this and this
Yes,
is how I do this.
and we
yeah.
ended up talking about clutter. And it was really like, that's our problem. It's not that our houses are unsanitary. They're just full of clutter. And I was like, okay, I'm not the only one. But
Well.
I just thought that was really funny because we just derailed on that conversation. And it was still fun to talk about. Like, I don't know if anyone else can have so much fun talking about cleaning. But I enjoyed that.
I like those too because, just talking with people and realizing that we share commonalities, and
Yeah.
that we're not abnormal. That I think that's part of it.
Yes,
It's not
absolutely.
abnormal to have clutter. It's uncomfortable to have clutter. It's something we all aspire to get rid of, but it's not abnormal. It really is not abnormal. So many people are living with the same problems that we live with. And that's one of the things I love about this group of ladies and the conversations that we have, because we're talking about things that are normal, that all of us feel like, God, I'm the only one who does this. Why does everybody else have this perfect life and I'm like this? And really, we're all like this. We're all flawed human beings, and we have our struggles, and maybe our struggles aren't exactly the same, but by sharing our struggles, we strengthen each other and we hold each other up, and we show each other that we're not alone in this. And I think that's a big part of it for me. I like the conversations. I think some of my favorite ones are the ones where we talk about things that lift people up and help people.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite episodes was the grief during the holidays.
Yes.
Because that's just a topic that's really close to me. Because we've had a lot of grief during the holidays in our family, and I gotta move my thing. And I really enjoy sharing how we have overcome those obstacles and really embrace the holidays through the grief. And even this year has been a perfect example, because as you guys may remember, when we started this journey of a podcast, I had in our home, Mark and I were host to a friend of ours who was dying of terminal colon cancer, and our friend Coy, and we made it through through the holidays with that. And, some of it's a little bit trying, and a little bit emotional, but we were trying to give him the best experience that he could have, even though he was ill. And his birthday was January the 4th. And so that was one of our goals, was just to give him the best holidays that we could, get him through his 60th birthday, because we didn't want him to die before he was 60 years old. And, because that just would, it's already a cheat, but that would be even more of a cheat, to die right before your 60th birthday. So that was our goal for him. And we made it past Coy's birthday, and he actually passed away on January the 16th. And we did not share that on the podcast because that was a little personal, and that was very trying for us. We were at peace with his passing because we'd had time to work through that and to process that grief. And we were relieved for him that he was no longer in pain, but it was still just a little too personal to share at that time. So I thought this was a good opportunity to bring that up. And we miss him. And but he's in a better place now, we believe. And but that grief during the holidays was really very real for us, even this year, because, I've lost my sister, I've lost my dad, my mother is living in a mental or a memory care facility because she's basically like a child now, and then losing Coy, and Mark's parents are both passed around Thanksgiving, so that episode is very, very special to me.
Yeah, and that one also for me as well. If you guys don't remember, my husband Travis was a widow when I met him, and Raina was 6 years old, almost 7 when I met her, and his wife had passed away right before his birthday, which is right before Christmas, a few years before I had met him. So I know that for him, coming around that time of year, as well as anybody who's, a widow, has, holidays are hard. And so, and especially for Raina being a really small child, her holidays suddenly became a little bit different. And now here's this new person coming into her life, and I'm going to be a whirlwind and change more things in her life, and her holidays are going to be different again because she's going to be spending them with strangers, but she's really,
she has embraced
she
the
really
changes.
has embraced the family too.
Yes.
And Travis has embraced our family, and my family has embraced them. And, I think that, I could be just so thankful for that alone. Because, in my heart, I did not experience that grief that he experienced because I did not know him then. But, I can only imagine how difficult it must be, every year to come upon that time of year and feel, the loss and remorse for a loved one. So I did really enjoy discussing that topic. At first, when it was brought up, I was worried that I wasn't going to have much to say. Some of the episodes have come that way to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to have anything to say because I don't even know.
That's how I feel
and then
too.
boom,
I
feel
felt
like
that
I
way
have lots
last
to
week.
say.
I did. I felt that way last week. What am I going to do about
whenever we
motivational
talked
tips?
about motivational tips, and I felt like that was a great one too.
Pretty long episode. You know, it seems like as we get our groove, we are getting better and better about actually talking about stuff and
getting in the flow.
I mean, I know I am. If you listen back to our first episodes, I barely
Amber was
talked.
very quiet.
I really wasn't sure. And I used to be a news anchor. Okay, but then I had a script. So it has been very weird and different for me throughout this whole process. But I mean, I did want to say something about the loss and grief through the holidays episode, which was one that I hosted. Mainly, you know, I talked about losing my parents, and it has and always will be really hard. Like, my mom died right before Halloween, and that's coming up, and that's probably one of my favorite holidays. But now it's just, you know, it's just sad to think about it, because, like, the holiday season is still very sad to me.
Well, and I don't think that sadness ever passes. And that's, you know, that's one of the things that we talked about in that podcast. I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, you know, we talked about that sadness never passes, but the idea is that you learn ways to cope with it, and you find other things to fill the void, where that
in a positive way.
Yeah.
And you have to allow yourself to have fun and enjoy it and have sorrow at the same time.
You can have both at the same time.
You just have to give yourself permission.
Yes.
You know, to hold them in your memory, but still make new memories.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Yes.
And I think there's that talking about having that sadness and having the sorrow, that reminds me of one of the one little word things that we've talked about. I think she talked about it last year. It was the girl Liz, who writes the poetry, and she talked about the and space. Like, everything is this and something else, and she wants you to look at not just this big focal point, but the and part of things. And I think that's where that holiday things, like you're talking about, you have to be able to let yourself enjoy. Even if you are in the throes of very recent grief, still allow yourself to smile and to enjoy that holiday, and think about the positive things about your loved one that you've lost. And feel the sorrow. And that goes back to the Eckhart Tolle, where he talks about being in the moment and feeling your feelings and living in those feelings. Don't stuff the sorrow. Feel the feeling, acknowledge it, and allow yourself to feel it. Because I know a lot of people during the holidays, they try to put on this bright and cheery show to cover up the sad feelings that they're feeling, and they don't let themselves feel the grief. So there's both sides of that scale there. So I think that was a really important episode. I do, and I think that was one of the first ones that really started leading us towards that light worker,
right,
shadow work type thing. And if you're not familiar with that term, light work and shadow work, that is a common term among the metaphysical community. And light work is basically just bringing light to the world, shining your light. You know, don't dim to fit in. Shine your light so that others can see the light. And then, which I think is what we try to do here. And then the shadow work portion that we talk about is actually just working on yourself. The stuff that's deep inside of you, that's in the shadows, that you don't always bring forth into the light. And doing shadow work is working on, and a lot of the things that we talk about with the one little word and things like that have to do with that shadow work.
The inner healing.
It's the inner healing that you're doing inside. And so if you hear us talking about those terms, that's kind of what, we're referring to there. And we've talked about, we may have an episode sometime, probably not this season, because I think we're pretty planned out. But in the future, probably around the beginning of the year, about light work and shadow work. And and ways that you can do that. So I'm kind of looking forward to that, but that's going off topic, which is typical for us. So, but some of the things that we've been doing are our goals girl thing, and we've had a lot of goals oriented stuff, and I love working through the goals stuff because this has been really helpful for me achieving my own goals this year, because as we share the things that we are doing with our goals and the things that work for us, I am refining what works for me.
Right.
And so we've done the one little word, we've done the power sheets, we've set the SMART goals, and hopefully, we're still working in our power sheets, Amber.
What power sheets? I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. What power sheets?
That must have been that episode where she fell asleep.
Oh, yeah, no. No, I received power sheets for my birthday last year, and I'm about, I don't know how many months behind.
Hey, there is no behind. Just start now.
Just start now.
And just start now and do it.
And mid-year, start now. Start now on yearly goals mid-year.
One little, yes, because the power sheets, the power sheets are divided into quarters, and you have a quarterly refresh. So we have a quarterly, we just had a quarterly refresh. So it's not too late to go back to the July and just go through that really quickly, because that's just a few weeks there.
Yeah.
And do that paperwork there and pick up from there and go. And that's one of the things with the one little word course that we do with Allie Edwards. She always talks about that too. There is no time limit on this stuff. This is an ongoing thing. This is...
I know.
One of the prompts for April I'm still doing.
Yes.
And I will probably do it until the end of the year.
Right, because some of them are to do the
me a while. Like, it was like one of those things like, pick one thing and do it as many times as you can this month. Well, it took me the whole month to decide.
I think that was
you're
May.
right.
The April was the
whole month to decide which one I wanted to do. And then I had to actually tell myself to do it, and then I had to remember that that's what I was supposed to do. So, it's probably going to be all year.
But a practice doesn't have to be, and that's the point of that, is that a practice doesn't have to be just for a month or just for a week or whatever. It can be for a lifetime. And this is just one little snapshot of your life that you're trying to accomplish this, to hopefully set up a pattern that will continue. So I do encourage you, Amber, to we can have a Power Sheets day. I'm ready.
I mean, that would probably, we talked about motivational tips like accountability. That would probably help.
It does.
Oh my gosh, why didn't we think of that last week?
I know. And you know what, Kristen and I do, and we've talked about this too, that we do our planning together. When we did our planner episode, every Sunday we get together on Zoom. So
I just need to get in on the planning.
Get on the Zoom and Zoom with us and do it, because I tell you, it has really transformed my efficiency in getting things done. And I won't say I've completed all my goals, or I'm nearly completed all my goals, or anything like that, but I have made so much progress. And sometimes there's goals that I look at and I'm like, that ain't gonna happen. After I've worked on it for 3 months, I'm just like, nope, not happening. And I actually changed one of my goals.
Like the ukulele?
That was from last year, but I did drop that. I can't remember what the one was this year, but I had one earlier in the year, and I actually dropped it in favor of something else that was much more immediate. And so I just changed it up a little bit, and I felt much better about that. And sometimes goals are a short-term thing. Sometimes one of my 8 goals in my tending sheets are, is a one-off project. And I just, I've put it off, or it's just such a big project that I've got lots of little steps, and I go through it and then I finish it. Yeah.
You know what? I actually want to update on my one little word. So every year I always pick this word that is like transformative. Like,
oh gosh.
I feel like I am going to like elevate to the next level, and I am so done with that. Like this year I got to maybe like March, and I was like, I am not doing a self-improvement word ever again. I'm so tired of like picking a working word. Like this word rise is an action word. Like I have to wake up early. I have to get off my butt. I have to have a good positive attitude. You know, it's a lot of work. Like there's so many different things that work with it, and those all actually work with my Cultivate What Matters goals. And so I'm already like thinking about the word that I want to do next year.
It's going to be sleep. I'm just kidding.
Girl, close. It's going to be enjoy, which means that I can sleep as long as I enjoy it. So I've already decided that my word was going to be enjoy or something along those lines. I want a passive word that doesn't take like this long, strenuating effort.
Hey, I mean, I picked the word
strenuous. Thank you.
Yeah, I picked the word inspire, so I'm right there with you.
Right. Well, you have a like big shoe to fill. I feel that way too. Like
I feel like I have filled it so far this year, honestly.
And you know, by contrast, I feel like I picked the perfect word for me this year. So my word was now, and in the past I've had heal, simplify, organize. I'm trying to think.
Those are all working words.
They're all working words. And I had explore and clarity. You know, they were all digging deep within myself. They were doing lots of physical work and things like that. And so after I read Eckhart Tolle for the first time, I started seeing the word now pop up everywhere. And I talked about that before when we picked our word and when we did our reveal. And so I just kept seeing that word everywhere. It's crazy by being in the present moment and things like that. And I thought, I think I need to pick that for my word because that's just really resonating with me right now. And so I chose now. And even still, I see now everywhere. And it's brought me so much inner peace. And I've learned so much about myself by focusing on this word. And it's still a working word because I have to stop myself and concentrate on living in the now. And, you know, instead of, here's a perfect example, being mad at my husband because he
did something last
week that I told him not to do or whatever, or that he shouldn't have done. And I'm like, just, but then it's like now, just be now, be here now. And just going back to that and, you know, not fretting about what's in the past or what's in the future and just being here. And sometimes, I'm one of those, I'm a workaholic kind of person. So I get up and I work until I'm exhausted and then I go to bed. And so if we go out to dinner or whatever, I'm sitting there thinking about all the stuff I need to be doing. And when I'm at the movies, I'm thinking about all the things I should be doing and actually making myself pause and just embrace what is right now.
Right. Turn off the monkey mind.
And one of the things I did a while back was we went to a concert that my husband and I, and it was in this little outdoor courtyard. And I did this whole thing where I actually sat and listened to this music and composed poetry in my head about what I was feeling and seeing and experiencing now. And it's a very kind of abstract poem, but it just really summed up what I was thinking and feeling. And I really felt like I was here now. And so in a way, like I said, I think it's been the best word I could have chosen for me. But I'm with you in that next year I want to choose something like fun or enjoy or just joy or something light and airy and peaceful that I don't have to think too hard about or work too hard for. I think that even those, though, I will find ways that challenge me with those things because I am a workaholic. So taking a rest and enjoying what is right now is sometimes hard.
Right. Well, and enjoy really goes with your word now, because I kind of have word envy. And this happens every time. I always envy other people's words.
Oh, I do that too.
I love everybody else's words, because at some
awesome.
way.
They're
I'm
inspiring.
like, that's a really good word. And I see your word everywhere. And I find, I literally will be watching a movie and I'll see something that someone says in the movie that relates to her word, and I'll take a little video and send it to her.
Yes.
She's probably stop sending me
no,
Star Wars.
I said a line out of Star
Jen
Wars.
said something to Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he was talking. Obi-Wan Kenobi said something about he had a bad feeling about something in the future, and Qui-Gon Jinn was like, well, don't worry about that. We have something, really important to think about. You need to be thinking about in the now. I'm paraphrasing. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi says, well, Master Yoda says to be thinking about the future because it's important too.
Right.
And
I know exactly which movie you're
I know, right?
from.
So, and I was just like, oh my gosh, they both have really good points. And so I sent her that,
Yep.
But, like I was saying is I do get word envy and so, sometimes, when I think about because I'm not in the now, I'm thinking about next year's word while I'm living through my word right now. And so I'm like, okay, well, what happens if I pick the word enjoy, right? Because one of the things that I do is when I'm at work, sometimes I think about what I'm going to do when I get home, whether it's something I want to do or something I don't want to do, because it's not work. My mind is like, oh, you're at work. Let's think about something else, and that's actually something that Eckhart Tolle was talking about one time.
Yes.
And so
we talked about it in a podcast also.
Yeah, pretty recently, yeah. And so that's actually something that I've been trying to be more aware of. So thinking about having my word enjoy next year, I'm already thinking about my word and what I will be thinking about when I have that word. Does that make sense? So my mind is thinking about what my mind's going to be thinking about, what it's going to be thinking about. But
yes, we are very twisted. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm literally sitting here. Can you tell I have anxiety? Anyways, so I'm thinking, okay, if my word is enjoy and I'm sitting at my desk and it's a really tough day and I start thinking about this X thing that I need to do later, I am going to have to tell myself, no, we are going to enjoy what we're doing right now.
That
so
is
you're
important.
Getting excited about enjoying things in the future?
Is that not the weirdest thing? Enjoying things in the moment in the future.
So
I'm a planner girl.
Next year, 2023, enjoying things in the moment. I mean, no, I'm not thinking about enjoying things in the moment in 2022, but in 2023, that's my year.
I'm planning on thinking about things in the moment. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. I'm
sick
person.
So I'm going to think of my word literally probably right before the new year starts. I'm not even thinking about that right now.
She is not a planner girl, thus the no planner, no power sheets, no planning.
Yeah, she's a maiden. She just goes with the flow.
I am being drugged behind. They are trudging and dragging me, kicking and screaming.
I think that's what makes the maiden, mother, and crone. I was actually talking to Mom about this the other day. I think that's what makes our dynamic so great, and that we actually kind of fulfill those personality traits of what is the maiden, mother, and crone. So like the crone is, kind of in those end stages in life. You're experiencing that third half of your life where people that are passing away, and you are dealing with age, becoming old
and having the wisdom. I've lived through the things you've lived through, and so I have, we've talked about this in the car earlier today, but I have the instinct to correct words that are spoken out of, I'm always correcting, and it's not because I want to prove that you're wrong and I'm right or whatever. It's this instinctual mothering crone wisdom thing where I want you to be wise too.
You have to pass on.
I'm passing on the information. Yeah.
And so for like the mother, there's the maternal instincts, but it's not just like, oh yeah, I'm a mom. I've been a mom all this time. It's not. It's about learning how to be a mom.
It is. Yeah. When you're a mom, you're constantly learning how to be a mom. You don't, that people always laugh about it. I wish it came with an owner's manual.
Right.
You don't know how to be a mom until you've already been a mom.
Yeah, and you're still learning how to be. I mean, you are still.
I'm still learning how to be a mom
with adult children.
Yes. And we've talked about that.
Yeah.
So
and the transition from being, unmarried to now married, and, sharing a home with a family, and the whole life change of what it's like to have to think about other people. I've had roommates before, but we didn't have a shared bank account, and they didn't depend on me to go to work to make sure that, there was food on the table. And then Amber, you only have to answer to yourself.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to do something, you don't have to, because you're your own person. And that's the neat thing about being, the maiden, is that you have this fresh, young perspective on life. And then you have the free life,
Yeah, and for the most part.
Yeah. And that's, I think
You're
that's what
free
makes
to move about the country.
Yes, and I think that's what makes it really fun, because Mom, like, if you were taking just planners, like, Mom has years and years of experience with using date books, like, and appointment books,
40,
for your hair.
I have 40 years.
For your hairdressing and stuff.
I have 40 years of doing date planners and date books.
And I'm trying to figure out, like, should I put the bill due date on my day planner, or should I put the day that I want to pay the bill? Because I like to pay them early. I'm like, that's an important decision that I have to make when I'm doing my planner. And Amber's like,
do I have any bills due today?
Right. What do I don't even know what I should put in my planner. Do I even want to? Yeah.
That is the awesome thing of the bills just coming out of your bank account. No, I'm just kidding. No, I do put bill due dates on my planner.
Right.
Thank you very much. I do pay my
bills.
No.
I'm not saying you don't.
No, I'm just saying,
I'm just talking about, but you don't do any planning. You don't.
I don't plan
have
6
two
months
other people
in advance.
to plan for.
Well,
too.
yeah, like y'all sit and y'all have like all of your activities planned out for the rest of the year, and I mean, there's no room for spontaneity, and I like spontaneity.
There is room for spontaneity, but we also have other people to account for. So one of the reasons that I I planned my meals for the whole week, because I have 2 other people in this household that need to know what's for dinner. And so,
who's cooking it.
And who's cooking it. So, there's a whole you don't have to plan ahead for your dinner. It's
no.
You can
I mean, no, not really. Like buy my groceries like 2 weeks in advance, so I have some kind of idea or plan what I'm going to do with
But
them.
if you decide that night that that's not what you want to eat, you don't have to do that. It's not going to mess up anyone else's plans. And so that's where that comes in. It's and that's where we have to do this planning. I have to make sure that those things that I need to do get done on a certain day because they affect other people, not just me.
And the thing about planning is like you can plan stuff on your own or you get an invitation, right?
Yeah.
For me, I have to juggle family with
my
family and her family, planning a holiday and making sure that you can go and Travis can go and Raina can go, and Mom is getting to that point in her life where she's like, I'm done. I do not want to be responsible for cooking Christmas dinner. I want to make sure that my daughter knows how to do it so that I can sit back. And, and that's kind of like where she's at in her, life. She still wants to plan it and stuff, but she doesn't want to be the one responsible for all of it anymore.
And
passing the torch.
That spontaneity thing, you're talking about. Here's the difference in our lives. Your next door neighbor comes up with an extra hockey ticket.
Yeah.
Or a concert to May or whatever. You go, heck yeah, I'm gone.
Yeah.
My coworker just messaged me the other day like, hey, let's go to this concert. So
yeah, go.
Yeah.
Kristen has to stop and think, wait a minute. What about Raina? Who's going to take Raina? Who's going to cook?
I mean, I get that. I mean,
and likewise me, and so,
I totally get that. Y'all are married and with children, so I get that. If I was married with children, I would take that into account.
Yeah.
No. But what I'm saying is you wouldn't be the maiden then.
You wouldn't be the maiden then, though. So that's why you are the maiden, because that is your perspective on things, is that you are that fresh young maiden who has no responsibilities to other people except your job. And, you are free to just enjoy your life. It's the different stages of life. And, I was in that place once for a very brief moment.
My mom always told me that not to have children until I am done being selfish. And obviously, I'm not done being selfish. You know what I mean?
Well, I think if we all waited till that, then none of us would.
We'd all be dead.
Well,
there would be no children.
Well, I mean, my mom really she did for me first, and my dad first, and herself last. That she never did anything.
And many women do that.
She put it all into
my mother-in-law was one of those people. She put her whole life into her children and her husband and, her just family
My
at
grandma
large.
was the same way. She put it into her children.
And then when her husband passed away, I mean, she died 2 years after her husband because she spent all those years ignoring her own health. And then it all came crashing down on her.
Well, look what happened to my mom.
Yeah, and probably pretty much exactly the same thing. So yeah, and that does happen. And but again, it's that thing that if you're waiting for your life to be perfect before you have children or whatever, it's never going to be there. You can't do that. If you're waiting for your life to be perfect to buy your dream house, it's never going to be there. Your life will never be perfect. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You're never not going to be selfish because that is human nature to look out for oneself at some point. You're never not going to be
so
done trying to achieve new endeavors.
So are you telling me that I need to start having children before I dry up?
No, I'm just telling people that if that's your excuse for not having children,
it's not my excuse.
No.
I mean, I really physically can't have.
Well,
children,
I know that, but I'm I'm not just talking for you. I'm talking for the other people that are out there because literally there are people out there who are waiting for their life to be perfect, and it's not going to be. If you want children, have children. Even Dave Ramsey tells you, don't wait till you're out of debt to have children. That being out of debt has nothing to do with having children. Having children is a God-given miracle, and have children if that's what you want to do. Or don't have children if that's what you want to do. But don't wait till the time is right or the whatever is right or perfect, because it never will be. And that applies to children. That applies to everything.
Going to college.
Yeah, going to college.
Yes, I know. Another dig at me. I get it. Okay, I need to finish my master's. I get it.
Yeah. Somebody.
Why do you think we're bullying you, Amber?
That's the guilty dog who barks first. No,
no, I was having this call.
Or the lady doth protest too much.
Yes.
So I think one of my other favorites that we talked about, one of my favorite podcasts was the, I called it, I think we titled it Give a Little Love.
Yes.
And that was our Galentine's podcast, where we talked about.
I remember that one made it to the list, and you were like, "What's that?"
Whose even idea was that?
Yours.
No, it wasn't.
Yes.
Y'all keep blaming me for this, but I don't remember.
You got that list somewhere still.
I don't remember writing Galentine's Day down. I really don't.
I really liked that one because it really brought to light that whole thing about loving your friends and
self-love too.
And self-love too. We talked about all kinds of love. And I want to go back to that someday, because I was reminded the other day when I was talking to someone else that when I was in maybe junior high or high school, I read Deepak Chopra's Love.
Okay.
And, I bought it from the Scholastic Book Fair or whatever.
Oh, wow.
And thinking that it was going to be a book about romantic love.
Yes, because you were a teenager.
Because I was a teenager, right. And I thought, here's going to be the magic book of how to get love, And then I was like, what is this? And it was good. I won't say that it wasn't good, but I don't think as much of it sunk in because it wasn't.
Oh my gosh, yes. It's like watching Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as a 6-year-old
as a child, and
versus
then as an
watching
adult.
it as a 36-year-old.
Yes.
And you're like, oh my God, those children and their parents. It's their parents.
It's their parents. It's all the parents.
Yes. Yes, it's completely different.
The
like
mother
eye-opening
and the
experience.
father.
So that's interesting because I don't know anything about that, but it's, based on who wrote it, it's probably very relevant and interesting.
Oh, I think it goes perfect. Well, and I think I even think Tolly quotes him in A New Earth, if I'm not mistaken. So, it very much is relevant to some of the things that we've talked about and stuff. And so I really think I want to talk about that one at some point. Maybe I don't know. I will say that leads me into this other topic. The Eckhart Tolle reading has been very interesting. I'm not sure I'm really happy with the way we went about it, but that book is so deep. I don't know
any other way
to dive into that one. When we originally set out doing this, we thought we would do a lot more book reviews, or like a book club kind of thing, and that we would read all the classic literature and some of the newer literature and whatever, and then so we decided we'd start out with Eckhart Tolle because I'd been trying to get the girls to read it for so long. And because it made such an impact on me, and I finished it, probably about a year ago, I guess, was when I finished the first reading of it. And so it just made such a huge impact on me, and I wanted to share. And so we decided to bite it off in 2-chapter increments, and so then I had to go back and reread it instead of just discussing the main topics. that I was inspired by, I had to go back and break it up into what chapters, which meant I had to reread the book for a second time. Mm-hmm. I did absorb even more out of that book by reading it the second time, I will say. And the discussions have been great, and I've really learned a lot from reading that book. But it's been driving me crazy that we've done it in this bit by bit by bit, because I feel like it's never ending.
It does.
And so,
and that's really coming from our perspective. You as listeners just get, a feed. Oh, look, here's the next episode. And then it's like, oh, okay, we're going to do it every other month or so, or however many often it lands. But on our end, on our perspective, we record a little bit early, and then we write blogs a little bit early. And, sometimes I'll go in and be like, okay, we're writing this blog in like 3 months, but I have an idea, so I better get it off my brain. Right. So I start a little Word document to kind of etch out some things, and then I have notes, and like I feel like we have been seeing Eckhart Tolle for over a year.
Yeah, it really
has. Because, we've been talking about it since like, July of 2021.
And then you start to forget
what chapter was what?
What chapter did that come out of? Yeah. Am I talking about something that we haven't talked about on the blog? Especially for me,
and because I've already read it, and I'm over here listening to his podcast.
And that mixes it up too.
And I like to read the book, and then I go back and listen to the book the second time around, so that I make sure
to absorb it.
Yeah. So, I'll listen to it while I'm driving or washing dishes or just chilling. And so I hear, and he narrates his own book. So, and then I'll listen to a podcast, so I can't tell a difference. Sometimes I'm like, did I hear that on the podcast of his, or was that the book? Or did I read that? Or was that something we talked about? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I quoted something that I listened to on the podcast of his as pertaining to he was talking about something in the book, but I'm like, my bad, But it's like I can't remember anymore because it all kind of bleeds together.
Right. And that's what I'm talking about. So I'm really looking forward to wrapping up and not ever doing that kind of thing again. I really think in the future. So if we do
a book, it'll be
a book like that,
advance notice, so you can read it too.
Right. We'll give you a couple of months to read it, and then we'll
do an episode.
And we'll just read the whole book, and then do one episode about it, and just free for all discuss the book. And so I really kind of look forward to looking at books that way again, because it really interrupted my reading program, because I have these books all stacked up over here I'm sitting beside. I'm sitting at the chair where I normally read at night, and my books are all stacked up over here. And I had all these books stacked up that I was going to read next. And then we decided to read Eckhart Tolle, and I was like, ugh. So, it derailed my reading program. But, now I'm finally getting to go back to reading some of the stuff I like. Not that I don't like the Tolle, but,
it's not fun if you're forced to do it.
Well, and it's not that I'm forced to do it. It's just that I've read.
It's not fiction.
It's not fiction, and I'm reading it with a mindset of learning and teaching. So as I'm reading it, I'm trying to highlight things so that I know what information I want to pass on from that. So It's a little bit different, and I'm sure you've done this.
Because literally every book I read during the school year,
right?
I have to read it from that perspective.
Yeah, because you're a school teacher and you teach English. And how many times have you read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein?
You don't want to know.
Yeah, I
recently, just at the end of the school year, we read Mary Shelley. Well, it was Grizz Grimley's adaptation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Oh, okay. So, but see, you've read it so many times and you know where things are, but at the same time, you're probably like trying to come up with what's the point I want to make this week or today in today's lesson. What's the point I want to make?
So you are having to go back and skim through it.
Right.
To refresh all the little details.
Oh, yeah. And so that's, that's one of those things that,
I mean, every time I read it with that point of view in mind, I find something new that I want to touch on.
So one of the other episodes that we talked about or that we recorded a while back, we sometimes have some kind of funny things, and sometimes we're recording really, really late at night, and we get a little silly. In fact, I've actually been collecting all of the little snippets from the recordings to make a blooper reel. So someday, maybe for our 100th episode.
Oh, yes, that would be so fun. Like a jokes and dorky sound effects and all the weird things that we do.
Because we often sing little TikTok songs or make weird noises, and of course we have lots of little belches and
oh god,
those kind of noises, yes, and so
microphone mishaps.
Oh yeah, all kinds of microphone mishaps and stuff, and so I keep thinking that one of these days I'm going to make a blooper reel out of it, and so I've been threatening it, and I've actually finally started going through and editing the little snippets out. So I've got a little collection of snippets, and I'm going to put those together in a bonus podcast and just see how silly we can get with it. But something that's funny that would not actually play very well on a podcast was when we were recording our cups episode. And
I loved that episode, by the way.
I did too. I actually wrote it down on this list to talk about because I thought it was a great episode because we talked about overflowing our cups and how we as women often, just do that. We fill our cups and don't give ourselves that rest and that self-care that we need and stuff. And but as I started the episode by reading an essay that I had written a while back about overfilling my cup. And it was really, really late at night, and we're recording, and I look up, and Amber's got her eyes closed, and she's just nodding her head, just like she's listening to some groovy music. Yeah. Just close your eyes and think about that. Just moving her head.
Kristen, didn't you get some pictures?
I did. I think I took a video because you were holding your phone. Because I think you were like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna fall asleep. Let me look at my phone."
Oh yeah.
And you were holding your phone, and you kept like almost dropping your phone, and it would make your head butt. And this is while Mom is reading her very profound essay. That's quite poetic.
Honestly, I don't remember the episode cups at all. I slept
That's because
through it.
She slept through the whole thing, I think. She did occasionally make like a yeah.
Oh, that was Amber's one-liner stage.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, she would just come in with some random word. Yeah.
I was the queen of the one-liner.
So we thought that one was really funny, and I look forward to hearing the bloopers because they're going to be really funny too. But some things that are not so funny is our living with COVID, and this is probably going to be the last little topic that I'm going to bring up here before we shut this down because we've been talking for a while now. When we did the COVID episode, the 2 years out episode of COVID, my intention was to talk about the things that are the same and the things that are different, the things that have changed. And
right.
I think that was one of the episodes where we really diverged from the topic. I meant to talk about how we started out talking about how the restaurants are understaffed and people, even your company, Kristen, is understaffed, Amber is short on all these teachers. Just, it's the mass exodus from the teaching and the nursing profession and things like that, because people are just so burnt out from it. And then we have all of the issues with the transportation and, getting our goods and services, supply chain issues. But also I wanted to comment at that time, and I don't know that I ever adequately did talk about the mentality that has changed, not in us, but in the way companies do business now. And the example was going to be, or I think I started out talking about this and it never got to that point, but my grocery store during COVID decided to change into a different, what is the word for it? There's different grocery stores within this chain that are owned by this company, and they all have a different pattern of operation. And so it decided to switch the pattern that it,
like their business model.
Yes, their business model. Thank you. And so, and I'll just be specific. It was an Albertsons before, and it changed to a Tom Thumb. And those two stores operate very differently. The Albertsons had lots of variety. I could rely on having lots of ethnic food there. And, one of my prime examples was the soda aisle. Soda. And I said soda, not Coke, even though I'm from Texas. But, I want y'all to understand what I'm talking about. The soft drinks aisle was a long aisle, and it had soft drinks and bottled drinks, canned drinks on both sides of the aisle, going all the way down both sides. So that was where you had your Arizona teas and your Coca-Cola and your Shasta or whatever brand it is now, and all those things going straight down two aisles, or two sides of the aisle. And then this store changed over to the Tom Thumb model, and the Tom Thumb model is to have fewer choices, and I'm not even sure how they've crowded. The store is just as crowded as it ever was, but they have fewer selection than they ever had.
I don't think it's just that store. I think it's all of them. Yeah. Like anything that has multiple flavors.
Yeah, but the thing is that that store now, that same long aisle is only on one side of the aisle, and it's only about half of that aisle.
Oh, wow.
So it is 1/4 of the amount of selection that I used to have. And really all they've kept is Coke, Diet Coke, Coke Zero, Dr. Pepper, sugar-free Dr. Pepper, whatever variation that is. And, and then there's like one little one little bottle of Sprite and one little 12-pack of 7-Up and, a couple of little 12-packs of Barks root beer and almost nothing else except for their own store brand. And I don't think it's just Tom Thumb. That's not what I'm trying to say. And the reason I brought this up as part of COVID is because it seems to be a pattern with everyone. They have cut down, even if Nabisco makes 40 different kinds of cookies and crackers, the stores are choosing to carry only 10. And you can't get the other ones anywhere. And the stores try to blame it on the supply chain and that they can't get those products or the manufacturer isn't making the products. But I can go to another store and find the exact product that they say they can't get. They have it at this other store. So it's not a supply chain issue. This is a fallacy that they are using as an excuse to carry less of the products that don't sell the most. Mm-hmm. So they're going through their inventory and saying, we sold 10 boxes of Cheez-Its Extra Toasty, but we sold 50 boxes of regular Cheez-Its. We're only going to carry the the regular Cheez-Its. And if we sell equal amounts of Coke and Coke Zero, then we'll carry both of those. But if the Coke Zero drops down and we don't sell, equally the same amount, we're not going to carry that anymore. And I really think that's what it is. And the customer service has declined so severely. My husband just talked about the other day, he went through a drive-through. I can't remember which one it was. I'm trying to think which one it was.
Not important.
It's not important. Well, maybe it is important. I don't know. But he went through a drive-through, and the person never spoke a word to him. Nothing. He ordered over hi, welcome to whatever. Place your order when you're ready. So he placed his order. They drove up. He drove up to the window. They opened the window and held their hand out for his card.
Yeah.
And he gave them the card. They shut the window. They opened the window, handed the card back, shut the window, and then opened the window and handed him his food and shut the window. No, thank you. No, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. No, whatever. And what the heck has happened to customer service?
That actually, exact same thing happened a while back. We went to eat at this fast food restaurant that's connected to a gas station, which is against, my religion. No, I generally don't like to do that because the restaurant typically smells like a gas station.
Was it called Big Daddy's?
No.
Okay.
But
they do stink. There is
they smell like mop. Mop.
No, there's a Taco Casa that's next to a gas station. It smells like the bathrooms that are next door.
Yeah. So anyways, but we wanted to eat this special thing that they had there. So we're like, let's go eat there. It just happened to be one of those trucker gas stations, that has gifts and fun stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So I love those. I like walking around and looking at all the souvenirs.
Kind of like a truck stop.
If you're listening.
Yeah.
Oh, was it a love?
It was a love. So,
yeah. Okay.
So I'm like, can we go after we eat and go look at all the, weird truck gifts and stuff?
Yeah.
And my husband was like, yeah. So we went and walked around. And, of course, I found something I wanted to buy. So I went up to the register. That person at the cash register did not say a word to me. And I was like, that was the weirdest experience ever.
Maybe they were mute, Kristen.
I understand that. But at the same time, I think because we have become so accustomed to contact-free and no touching and don't talk to me, don't look at me, stay 10 feet away from me. I think we've become so accustomed to that people forgot how to go back to the old way.
And because we were wearing masks, everybody quit smiling. They didn't have to put on a fake smile anymore.
This lady just looked at me and was expecting me to read her mind. And I was like, did you mean that you want me to go up to the register? And she just looked at me. And I was like, okay. So I put my stuff down. And then she scanned my stuff and then just looked at me. And I'm like, okay, you going to tell me the total? It was very weird. And then she just gave me my receipt. But she didn't even hand it to me. She laid it on the counter.
Right.
Oh, and working in retail, that used to make me so mad. People wouldn't hand me the money. They'd would lay it on the counter, and I'm just like, okay. It would go quicker.
Do you know how hard it is to rake those coins off the counter and put them in your...
Yeah. And, I understand, not wanting to hand... Because I don't like handing people cash money now because I'm like, ooh, what if their hand touches mine? So I understand that. I mean, they're going to touch the money that I touched, but sometimes people have sweaty hands or they just coughed in their hand. You never know. And so we think about those things now because COVID has made us aware of that.
But I understand that. It's not even that, but you can smile.
Yeah.
You know, it's that whole thing. You know, it's like every time I answer the phone, I work from home as a travel agent. So my cell phone is my business phone. And I get unlisted calls on there all the time. It just shows me a phone number. I don't know who it is because they're not in my my address book. So, but every time I pick up my phone, I answer with a smile. Crafty neighbor, this is Cindy. Can I help you? And I actually have a smile on my face while I'm answering that phone, even though 99.9% of the time that's a spam call, robocall, whatever. I don't even know who it is. I just answer it that way every time automatically because I want if it is a client, I want them to know I am cheerful and happy for their business. And I don't think we have that in America anymore. I really don't. Last night, Ashley and I went to Dollar General for a little while to shop, and I got some things, and I walked up to the counter to pay. There's nobody at the counter. Nobody. And I had this happen at a CVS also. So they put in the self-check kiosks. Well, that gave the girl that's working the cash register the ability to go do other stuff or walk away. Mm-hmm. She doesn't have to stand there anymore and wait for you. So we stood there for several minutes before I noticed the self-checkout because I hadn't been in there in a while. I didn't know they had a self-checkout. And there's no worker there at all, no clerk. And I finally did find the self-checkout, and then I had problems. And it wasn't until I was having some issues with both of my debit cards, and I was having some issues with them, and they weren't working. And she finally came over and said, "Here, let me do it on this other register. That one has problems." And I'm like, I've been standing here for 5 minutes.
Right.
Where
if it
were
has
you?
Problems. Why aren't you up here?
You should be here.
And suddenly, this podcast turned into a part 2 of our pet peeves.
No. Oh, right.
It really did.
And that was probably
that's what
one
we
of my
talked
favorites.
about. Like most
fun.
on our pet peeves was like the service industry people and how they act.
and you know, by the same standard, you know, maybe we need to come back and do an episode about the people that we've seen and the businesses that we admire for the service that they have done.
Yes.
Because there are those out there, and like all people, we are more prone to talk about the negative things than we are to give the props to the businesses that are doing things right. And
right. Like today we went to go eat at this Mexican food restaurant. And you know, whenever you tell someone like no tomatoes, I don't like them or whatever, my grandmother who has dementia, she just remembers that because she never liked tomatoes, all she remembers is that she's allergic. And she's over here eating salsa, okay? Like, she ate like a whole bowl of salsa. And then we're like, okay, no tomatoes on her tacos because she's allergic.
And I just say that so that they will not put them on there.
Because it really makes it hard for her to eat her food, because then that's all she thinks about is that there were tomatoes on her meal because of her dementia. So our waitress, bless her heart, like, I have never had someone in the food service like a wait staff, looked so concerned when she came back to let us know that the Spanish rice had tomatoes cooked in it. And we were like, no, that's okay. And she was just like, are you sure? Like, there was severe concern in her eyes. Like, she was afraid that she was going to, like, murder my grandmother. And I was like, that's a really good waitress right there.
Yes.
Because she, like, legit cares. Like, I could tell that it was really important.
And by the same example, we went. We went recently to. My mother had a birthday and a while back, and we took her out to get her a mani-pedi. And while we're at the mani-pedi, I hadn't been in a while. That's kind of one of the things I cut out when my husband went down to part-time. But my mom really needed it, and because nobody at the memory care facility does that stuff for her, so she won't let them. And so I took her out to get a mani-pedi, and And we learned while we were there, after we had already gotten started, that Emily, who I love, she is my manicurist, pedicurist, and she is fabulous. And I've been using her for over 10 years. And she had recently decided not to take credit cards anymore. Well, guess what? I do not carry cash. I don't take a checkbook because nobody takes checks anymore. And Kristen didn't have any cash. Ashley didn't have any cash. So we're like, oh my gosh, I can run over. I was sitting here thinking, okay, I'll leave them here and I'll run over and get some cash out of this ATM right down the street.
After she did like 3 pedicures.
Yes, she did 3 pedicures, and I'm like, I'll just leave them here as collateral and we'll run over here and get some cash. And she's like, no, just go get it and bring it back to me later. And because she knew we were getting ready to go to lunch. And so she told us, just go to lunch and bring me the money later. This is a person who runs this little shop. This is her entire livelihood. This was more than $100 worth of services. And she let us walk out that door without paying her a dime.
And let me just say, we were late to our appointment too.
And we were late to our
really
appointment.
Bad customers. We showed up, we were got services and didn't pay.
15 minutes late to our appointment. Yeah. Didn't have the right way to pay. And that was just so phenomenal of her to be so trusting and allow us to go do that. And we did. We took my mom to lunch, and then we came back, and actually Emily had shut down the shop because she didn't have any more appointments, and she wanted to go see her daughter's swim meet. And so she just locked up. So we had to pay through the mail slot, and hopefully she'll find that. But I thought that was so trusting of her. And what great service. And I've had other small business people do something similar to that. So yeah, I don't want to end everything on a negative note. I want to end it on a positive note like that, because there are good people out there. We just got to find them. And they're probably not in the corporate world, these fast food chains that are hiring. Well, I say that, but then there's a little Sonic down the road where I go, and there's this guy who always smiles every time he brings my drink out. And so there are people out there that are giving that good service, and I want to give the kudos to them for doing that. So yeah, I think that's a good place to end this, on that positive note.
Yeah.
So anyway, next week we have Amber, and she is going to be doing games and gaming. Tell us about what you're doing there, Amber.
Oh, well, next week we're going to talk about games and gaming, like the obviously.
Wasn't that what I said?
Yeah. Games that we play. When do games get too addicting?
Oh yeah.
And are there's such thing as too many games?
Oh, all the choices, yeah.
Wow, that's a question you should ask whenever I have cleaned out my house.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be interesting. Yeah, that'll be a good topic. So come with your game plan.
Punny.
I know I am, aren't I? So, we'd like to give special thanks to Red Door Studios and Creative Audio Tech for our music. We have the great theme music, and I hope y'all enjoy it as much as we do. And the recording equipment, which they've helped us out a whole lot there. And we'd also like to thank all of you, our loyal listeners. We are so happy that you listen to us week after week. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please give us a good rating and share the feed with your friends. We need all the listeners we can get. And also, don't forget to check out the blog. If you're only listening to the podcast, you're only getting one part of the story. So that's it for this week. And we'll pick this conversation up again next week with Games and Gaming.
Bye.
Bye.